Well, good morning, my friend. It is Monday morning, and welcome to the Pastor's Podcast as we get another week going. Hope that you had a wonderful weekend. Boy, God bless us here at Maranatha Baptist Church and what God gave us yesterday. Of course, yesterday was back to school Sunday, and had well over 400 in Sunday school, and even more for the morning service. And what I rejoiced over is the people saved and baptized. I think we had 8 baptized this week, and that's a good week, and always good to see God doing something. And I rejoice when I hear about people around the country having a great day. My friend, Dr. Bruce Goddard, had a great day and yesterday. Another friend of mine, Brother Watford out in North Carolina, had a good day yesterday. And I always rejoice that men around the country are having great days. Souls are being saved. It just shows that it can be done in 2022. And every man's situation is different. So that's why we're not in competition with each other. It's just, to me, it's encouraging to see that God's still at work. When a lot of guys are just kind of floating along, there's some guys out there really doing something for the Lord. And that always thrills my heart that souls are being saved. And I hope that does yours as well, that God continues to do a work in the churches around our nation. I want to talk to you this morning, though, about being fair with people. In Jeremiah 23 and verse 5, the scripture says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth." Now, one of God's most comforting attributes is that his judgment is always right, and he is just to all. God never treats one differently from another. God never treats one different. And get this now, how God treats one, he treats all. So if only God's people chose to be like God in all these areas, we could find that we could be fair with all people. Now, one thing that will help people to think kindly towards you is if you are fair with all people. As a leader, it's hard to make judgments, especially when you have to make a decision against an individual. So now those who you've had to correct will respect you if you're fair with them. Now, one thing that causes people to despise you or a person and their leadership abilities is if they play favorites with people. You see, all that most people want is they just want to be treated fairly. The only way people can be treated fairly is to have judgment and justice. We live in days, and I think we all understand what I'm talking about. We live in days when we look at our judicial system, our government system, and very, very unjust. Some get away with doing anything that's illegal, others that they go after with all force of the law, and it's wrong. Those that are that way, one day they will stand before God. They may laugh right now, and they may think, I got away with this. They will stand before God because God's a just God, and he's a fair God. Now, I want to give you a few observations about judgment and justice so that you can be just and judge in your judgments. First, where there is judgment, there is justice. You cannot be just if you don't make the right judgment. When you make the right judgment, you'll be just in your decisions. Get this now. One of the easy ways to make sure you're making the proper judgment is to ask yourself if you are being just in your decision. Get this now. You can make a judgment and be wrong, but you cannot make a right judgment without justice being there. Second, there is justice. Where there is justice, there is judgment. So when you are just with your decisions, you will find that you make the right judgments. Judgment and justice are Siamese twins that cannot be separated. Justice is easily achieved when judgment is just. You'll be just with all judgments when you greatly desire to be fair with every decision. Third, where one is missing, the other is missing. So anytime you make a wrong judgment, it is because you were not just. Likewise, every time you were just, it is because you were not just. It's because you did not make a good judgment call. For one to be present, both must be present. Now, how do we achieve judgment and justice so we can be fair to all people? First, you must ask yourself what you've done in the past. Your past decisions often tell you what to do. So if your past decision was right, all you have to do to be just is to make the right judgment, just and to make the right judgment is to replicate that good decision from the past. Your past decisions will greatly help you to be fair to all people. Second, you must ask yourself what you plan on doing in the future. So in other words, whatever decision you make today, will you stick with that decision tomorrow? So in other words, I can't say I want to do something today and then tomorrow I want to change that decision. What I do today, I must do every day. Justice and judgment says that if you're not going to stick with that decision tomorrow, then don't make that decision today. Judgment and justice never change their decisions because they are based on truth, and truth never changes. Third, you must always follow the rule that what you do for one, you do for all. Now, here's the key. This rule is the easiest way to be fair to all people, and this rule is the easiest way to make the right judgments and to be just in what you do. You must take personality out of your decisions if you're going to make a judgment, and that is just to all. When personalities dictate your decisions will always be tainted. So decisions must be based on truth and not on personality. Now, I've learned in my life that what I do for one, I must do for all is the easiest way to minimize having to make just decisions. Now, let me just bring this one step further. So what I mean by all this is, okay, when I say you've got to say, okay, what's the easiest way is what I do for one, I do for all. So it's almost as if somehow you could separate yourself from the decision you have to make. It's almost as if somebody laid a piece of paper in front of you and said, what would you do in this situation? Without knowing the names, without knowing any of the landscape, you just look at that decision and said, this is what I would do. Now that's what you've got to do. You've got to take the personality out because we're humans and we tend to like or dislike a personality. So when I take the personality out and I just look at the whole situation that was in front of me and I make that decision based on that, then I make the right decision and I make the just decision. Now, my friend, that's how leaders ought to lead, how parents ought to lead, how pastors and bosses and supervisors, everybody ought to be just and in making their judgments in everything they do. If I treat everybody fairly, I'll be just when I make judgment calls about them. Whether it goes against them or against them, if I'm just, they'll at least know that I was fair to all, especially if I never change what I make. My friend, this is a great key to leadership that every leader needs to learn if they're going to be just in their judgments that they make. Well, I hope this is a help to you today. Now, let's remember today, be good to everyone. Everyone's having a tough time. Have a great day, my friend.